Ever get that, like, craving for salty snacks?
Yeah.
Like savory snacks that just won't quit?
Mm-hmm.
Well, today,
Yeah.
we're going on a deep dive into the hidden world of food additives,
Interesting.
specifically glutamate,
Okay.
and how it might be playing a role in those cravings.
Okay.
We've got excerpts from Hidden Dangers, Food Additives, Glutamate, and Consumer Health ready to unpack. So
Buckle up.
buckle up.
Yeah.
It's going to be a wild ride.
Well, what's really interesting about glutamate is that it's not just some like artificial lab creation.
All right.
It's naturally found in lots of foods.
Yeah.
And even plays a role in our brains
Right.
as a neurotransmitter.
Okay.
But the kind we're focusing on today comes from the processed food aisle.
Yeah, I know MSG gets a bad rap,
Mm-hmm.
but I'll admit I don't really know what it is beyond those little white crystals you sprinkle on food.
Right.
And I definitely don't know what all those E numbers on ingredient lists mean.
Yeah, right. Well, MSG,
Huh?
monosodium glutamate, is just one type of added glutamate.
Okay.
Those E numbers you mentioned, like E621, E627,
Uh-huh.
and so on, are codes for different forms of glutamates
Gotcha.
used as flavor enhancers.
Okay.
And the book points out something pretty eye-opening.
Okay.
The presence of these additives
Mm-hmm.
can often indicate a lower quality product.
Wait, so those chips I love
Mhm.
with the extra flavor
Yeah,
could actually be a sign of cutting corners.
it's possible.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Manufacturers often use these additives to mask the taste
Good.
of cheaper ingredients.
Right.
For example, the book talks about how
Mhm.
some meat products are bulked up with water,
Wow.
and then flavor enhancers are added
Really?
to make up for the diluted taste.
Wow, that's kind of unsettling.
Yeah.
Makes you question everything you buy.
Mm-hmm.
So how do these glutamates actually trick our taste buds?
Well, glutamate essentially makes things taste more savory,
Okay.
or umami,
Right.
which is one of the 5 basic tastes.
Yeah.
Alongside sweet, sour, salty, and bitter, it triggers receptors on our tongues
Gotcha.
that send signals to our brains saying,
I'm
hey,
done.
this is delicious.
So they're basically hijacking our natural taste mechanisms.
In a way, yes.
Okay.
And that's where things get a little tricky.
Okay.
Hidden Dangers argues that
Right.
these added glutamates can not only make us crave more of those processed foods,
Right.
but also have potential negative health impacts.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued.
Yeah.
Tell me more about these health concerns.
Well, you've probably heard of Chinese restaurant syndrome
Sure.
with symptoms like rapid heartbeat, headaches, even diarrhea. While the term itself is outdated and a bit culturally insensitive,
Right.
those symptoms are real.
Yeah.
For some people who are sensitive to MSG
Okay.
and Hidden Dangers, delves into research,
Okay.
suggesting a link between MSG and other issues, including hypertension
Gotcha.
and intestinal problems. But what's especially interesting is the discussion about
Yeah.
its impact on our appetite hormones.
Hold on, appetite hormones.
Yeah.
You mean like those things that tell us when we're full?
Exactly.
Okay.
The book explains how MSG can interfere with hormones like leptin and ghrelin,
Right.
which regulate our feelings of hunger and fullness. Basically, MSG can throw these hormones out of whack,
Yeah.
leading to increased cravings
Right.
and overeating.
So it's not just about the immediate yum factor.
Right.
It's messing with our body's natural signals.
Yeah.
That's kind of scary.
Right. And the book makes a point of challenging that
Yeah.
common saying, everything in moderation.
Mm-hmm.
It argues that even small amounts of these additives
Okay.
can build up over time,
Right.
especially if you're consuming
Yeah.
processed foods regularly.
So even if I'm not experiencing any obvious symptoms, there could still be a long-term impact.
That's the argument Hidden Dangers is putting forward. And this ties into the potential issues with other food additives as well, not just glutamate.
Yeah.
The book actually draws a parallel to aspartame,
Right?
the artificial sweetener.
Mm-hmm.
It suggests that aspartame could have similar effects on our health and well-being, further emphasizing the interconnectedness of these chemicals and their impact on our bodies.
Aspartame.
Hmm.
So even those diet sodas I thought were a healthier choice
Mm-hmm.
could be problematic.
Could be.
This is giving me a lot to think about.
It definitely raises some important questions about what we're putting into our bodies.
Right.
And how the food industry might be impacting our health in ways we don't fully realize.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. This is making me rethink my whole grocery shopping strategy.
Right.
So if we're trying to be more mindful about these additives, where do we even start?
Yeah.
I mean, avoiding all processed foods altogether seems
Right.
pretty unrealistic.
It definitely is for most people. The key is to become a more informed and discerning consumer.
Wow.
Hidden dangers offer some practical tips.
Okay.
For one, start paying closer attention to those ingredient lists.
Yeah.
Don't just glance at them. Really take the time to understand what you're seeing.
Yeah, those labels can be overwhelming.
Right.
Besides looking for those E numbers for glutamates, what else should we be watching out for?
Well, a good rule of thumb is the shorter the ingredient list, the better.
Gotcha.
Longer lists often indicate more processing and potentially more additives you might want to avoid.
Okay.
And don't be fooled by buzzwords like natural flavors.
Mm-hmm.
The book points out that this term can be misleading and doesn't necessarily guarantee a healthier product.
So those all-natural chips might not be so innocent after all.
Right.
What about claims like low-fat or sugar-free?
Yeah.
Aren't those good things?
They can be, but it's important to look at the bigger picture.
Okay.
Sometimes when manufacturers remove one ingredient, they add others to compensate for taste or texture.
Wow.
And those added ingredients might not be any better for you. It's all about being a savvy label reader.
This is starting to feel like detective work.
Right.
But it makes sense.
Yeah.
We need to be more critical of those marketing tactics.
Mm-hmm.
Hidden dangers seems to be suggesting that the food industry isn't always looking out for our best interests.
Well, the book definitely raises some concerns about
Okay.
the profit-driven nature of the food industry.
Yeah.
Think about those buy one, get one free deals.
Right.
They might seem like a bargain,
Yeah.
but they encourage us to buy and consume more than we might need. And often those deals apply to the very processed foods that are loaded with additives.
It's like they're playing on our desire for a good deal
Yeah.
while also manipulating our eating habits.
Right.
It's a little unsettling to think about.
It is, and it highlights the need for us to be more aware of those influences and make conscious choices that align with our health goals.
Yeah.
The book emphasizes that we have the power to take back control of our plates.
Okay, but realistically, most of us don't have time to cook elaborate meals from scratch every day.
Right.
What's a practical way to navigate this minefield of processed foods and additives?
You don't have to become a gourmet chef overnight.
Right.
Small changes can make a big difference.
Okay.
Hidden dangers suggest starting by incorporating more whole, unprocessed foods into your diet.
Okay.
Fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, whole grains.
Right, the basics.
Yeah.
But what about those times when you just need something quick and convenient?
Mm-hmm.
Are there any better choices when it comes to processed foods?
There are definitely brands and products that prioritize healthier ingredients and fewer additives.
Okay.
It just takes a little research and label reading to find them.
Gotcha.
And remember, you don't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
It's about making gradual changes and being more mindful of what you're putting into your body.
So it's a journey, not a destination.
Right.
I like that. Yeah. But I have to admit, after learning all of this, it's hard not to feel a little overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do we know what's truly safe to eat anymore?
Yeah, I understand that feeling.
Yeah.
It's a lot of information to process.
Right.
But that's why resources like Hidden Dangers are so important.
Okay.
They equip us with the knowledge to make informed choices.
Yeah.
And the more we know, the less power those hidden dangers have over us.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Knowledge is power.
Right.
So we've talked a lot about additives and processed foods,
Mm-hmm.
but Hidden Dangers also mentions this idea of glutamate
Right.
being a natural neurotransmitter in our brains.
Mm-hmm.
How does that tie into the bigger picture?
That's where it gets really fascinating.
Okay.
The book explains that glutamate plays a crucial role in learning memory and even sensory perception.
Wow.
But when we overwhelm our bodies with excessive amounts of added glutamate from processed foods, it can potentially disrupt these delicate balances.
So it's not just about physical health, but also mental and cognitive well-being.
Exactly. And this brings us to a key takeaway from Hidden Dangers.
Okay.
It's not just about avoiding specific additives.
Oh.
It's about recognizing that our food choices have a ripple effect throughout our bodies and minds.
It's all interconnected.
Right.
So it's not just about swapping out diet soda for water.
Mm-hmm.
It's about understanding the broader context of how our food choices impact our overall health.
Precisely.
Okay.
And this understanding can empower us to make choices that support our well-being on a deeper level.
This deep dive has been incredibly eye-opening.
Good.
I feel like I've gained a whole new perspective on food and its impact on my health.
That's great.
But before we wrap up, I'm curious.
Yeah.
Are there any specific anecdotes or examples from hidden dangers that really stuck with you? It's like we've been looking at food labels all wrong. Instead of just scanning for calories and fat grams,
Right.
we should be thinking about the long-term consequences of these hidden ingredients.
Absolutely. And there was this one case study in Hidden Dangers that really brought this home for me.
Okay.
It talked about a woman who had been struggling with chronic migraines for years.
Oh, wow.
She'd tried all sorts of medications and therapies, but nothing seemed to help.
Really?
Then she started working with a nutritionist who helped her identify potential food triggers.
Interesting.
And guess what?
Right.
One of the biggest culprits turned out to be MSG.
No way.
Ah.
So just by cutting out MSG, her migraines went away.
It wasn't an immediate cure-all, but over time she noticed a significant decrease in the frequency and severity of her migraines.
Wow.
The book highlights how this case, while anecdotal, points to the very real impact that food additives can have on our health, even in ways that we might not immediately recognize.
Wow, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
It makes you realize that these additives aren't just some abstract concept.
Right.
They can have tangible consequences for people's lives.
Exactly. And it underscores the importance of listening to our bodies and paying attention to how different foods make us feel. It's not about demonizing all processed foods
Right.
or living in fear of every ingredient.
Yeah.
It's about cultivating awareness and making informed choices that support our well-being.
So it's more about empowerment than deprivation.
Precisely. Hidden Dangers reminds us that we have more control over our health than we might think. It starts with understanding the potential risks,
Okay.
but it goes beyond that.
Yeah.
It's about reclaiming our food choices and making them work for us, not against us.
This deep dive has definitely given me a lot to chew on. No pun intended.
Good.
I'm feeling inspired to take a closer look at my own eating habits and see where I can make some positive changes.
That's fantastic. Remember, small changes can have a big impact over time.
And knowledge is key. So to all our listeners out there, we encourage you to keep digging deeper, ask questions, and make those food choices work for you. Your health is worth it.
Absolutely. The more we know about what we're eating, the better equipped we are to nourish ourselves and live healthier, happier lives.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the hidden world of food additives.
Of course.
We hope you've learned something new and feel empowered to make informed choices about what you put on your plate. Until next time, happy eating.